Women who have a type of personality who put their needs last because they have to save everybody and take care and coordinate and do everything, they have something like 75 more chances of suffering from autoimmune disease. Trauma is not just something bad that happened to you. It is something that you needed that never took place. That is also trauma. I'm going to try to not cry here, but if any sister is listening right now, my dear sister, it is through the uncertainty that you'll find the answers. Trust, trust, and trust in the uncertainty and in the unknown, because when you leap, the net will appear.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Old Chicks No Shit podcast, where we inspire you to believe in yourself, dream bigger, and redefine what's possible for your next chapter. I'm your host, Jennifer Arthurton, and today's episode is all about coming home to yourself. If you have ever looked around at your life and thought, is this it? Is this all there is? Or wondering, how did I get here? Is this even what I want? Then this episode is for you. My guest today is Sophie Grégoire Trudeau, who is the author of a best-selling book called Closer Together, Coming Home to Ourselves and Loving Each Other. Now, Sophie has led a very public life as the wife of the former Prime Minister of Canada and has gone through her own midlife transition that has inspired the book. And that's what we're going to unpack in this episode. We're going to be talking all about living your authentic life, finding purpose, having compassion for yourself, and a whole lot more. So this is going to be a good one. Let's jump in. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode, Sophie. I am so excited to jump into this conversation with you.
Me too. I was born excited. Let's do it.
Okay, I want to start with your book because Closer Together, Coming Home to Ourselves. I know it wasn't written specifically for midlife women, but after I read this book, I was like, this needs to be the must-read book for all midlife women, because we are so busy doing everything for everybody, taking care of everybody, that at some point we look up and we're like, okay, why doesn't my life feel good to me? Like, who am I? What do I want? And we go through this process. And so many of the themes that you talked about, like, you know, the mental weight of our past conditioning, finding purpose, living authentically, like mindfulness, all of that is just so relevant to our experience in this chapter of our lives.
Yeah, and remember, Jennifer, that I wrote the book in my midlife, transition and chaos and transformation and trying to make sense out of everything. So I'm glad that this transpires, because that's where it came from, right? But there was no way that I was just going to, how could I say this? To receive all this transformation without understanding what was happening. And sometimes it takes years to have perspective over something, but there are tools that we have within our own self to slow down and to grasp what's happening without panicking. And we have so many reasons to be fearful and to be kind of anxious in our lives because of the way we live. So today I hope that people who are listening can go back to their lives and their loved ones with a little bit more tools and equipment to deal with what's coming next in their lives.
So before we unpack the tools, because I definitely want to get there, I would love to know, what does coming home to yourself mean to you?
It means having access to your authentic self, to your authenticity. And what does that mean? Authenticity is one's ability to express who you are without changing or molding your behavior to please. Excuse me, we all do it.
Yeah.
We do it as children, as a survival mechanism, because we need the love of our parents, and we'll do what it takes, right, to receive their validation. It's a survival mechanism. We need it. That's how we feel safe in the tribe. And we do it later in life, because I was reading not too long ago and listening to an incredible doctor called Dr. Todd Rose, who wrote a book called Collective Illusions. And he talks about our desire as human beings, and this is visceral, we're born with it, to feel a sense of conformity, to feel like we belong to the group, right? And we can be easily convinced and think of AI these days, but we can be easily convinced as human beings of what the group thinks when it's not what the group thinks at all.
Is that not the truth? Is that, oh my goodness.
Right? But that's dangerous. And it's happening to us every day with social media. Apparently, like 80% of the content that's on our social media is produced by 10% of the users. And those 10% are usually not representative of the whole at all. So think about the collective illusion that this creates. And what we're trying to conform to is an illusion itself.
Well, and I think this is so especially true for us as women, because I feel like as women specifically, like we are conditioned from the minute we land on this planet, to be the nice girl, don't speak too loudly, take care of others, to see our value in what our body looks like, or the things that we do for others. And so that becomes the path that we just default to without ever really asking ourselves, is this what I want? Is this me?
I mean, what you just said right now, is this what I want? Is this me? In a society that tells us how to look, how to mold our breasts or eyelashes, sorry, my cat is on me, our eyelashes, our hair, our teeth, our nails, our hips, our labia, like name it. Society is telling us what it should look like. If society was telling us and showing us images of naturally graceful women everywhere since childhood, we wouldn't even contemplate opening our chest ups and injecting our faces. And this has become our new normal. Plus, not only is it becoming our new normal, but we're being rewarded for it. And we have now convinced our own selves, I did it for myself. I didn't do it for anybody else. That's also part of the illusion.
Wow. So yeah.
Yep.
Right? So we go along in this life, and I think this happens to every woman, at some point in her life, where you wake up, you look around, you go, where am I? How did I get here? And can I continue on this path? And then we start to have this moment of reckoning where, like, and I know this was so true for me, if it's not this, then what is it? Because I hadn't considered any other option, because I didn't know there was another option.
I mean, women in modern society hold the emotional load of everybody in the family. Okay, we're wired like this, so it's a lot to carry. So that's first things first. Then, like household chores, they're not equally distributed. We still know this. A lot of amazing men out there are doing their part, but that's not true for most women. So we hold it all together. Plus, we have the ambitions and the creativity and the dreams that we hold within ourselves that we kind of like push away. I mean, I have 3 kids, 2 teenagers and an 11-year-old, and there's lots of sacrifices that I've made along the path, because I had a husband who was always gone most of the time, who was a great dad, but from day to day it was me. So I made a lot of choices that had to do with my kids' well-being way before mine, which I think partly is normal, because when you have kids, you realize that you're not the center of your own universe anymore, right? Which is great. But we as women, because of holding everything together, because the plates are overflowing, because we live in a culture that rewards us for self-betrayal, we live longer, but we don't live as healthily as men.
Isn't that fascinating?
Why is this? So Dr. Gabor Maté, who is a close ally of mine, he supported the book that I wrote, Closer Together. He says that research is showing that the women who have a type of personality who put their needs last because they have to save everybody and take care and coordinate and do everything, they have something like 75 more chances of suffering from autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, lupus, MS, name it. All of the inflammatory immune responses to this is too much. And by the way, we're pathologizing so many cases, right, of who we are when it comes to sickness or health. But what if they're not pathologies? What if our bodies are doing everything? They're so wise. They're telling us, you, red flag, too much, too quick, too soon, or this is little trauma, but for way too long, I can't take it anymore. So our bodies are doing exactly what they were supposed to do, but we're trying to adapt to abnormal living circumstances. Humans, in the way that we live, we're not supposed to eat processed food, not move, look at a screen for 10 hours a day, and be isolated from others. This is making us sick.
Which is
physically.
why I love so much this chapter of our lives, and why I say all the time that menopause is the gift we didn't know we needed, because we no longer have the mental, physical, or emotional bandwidth to withstand anything that is not serving us. So we have to start making ruthless prioritizations about what's staying, what's going, where do I want to go? And it's like the course corrector to take us off this path of doing everything for everybody and be like, okay, now it's time for me, right? But the question that so many of us have is like, what do I do? How do I get there? And we have this little inner voice that's chirping away that we have been taught to ignore.
So I would say the first two main things that you want to focus on if you're in midlife transition is this. The first one is to know that your heart, your actual heart, has a kind of like a web of a nervous system around it. And that web and nerves have a capacity to predict negative events. Okay? So think about this. When you don't trust your heart, when you don't trust your intuition, we make mistakes as women because we don't prioritize our inner voice that is wise and that knows. Plus the body speaking to us. And the other thing, repeat the question again, because I want to make sure I don't forget something.
When we get to this spot of like, okay, I know this is not for me, but where do I go from there? How do I course correct?
Right. So the other thing is slow the F down. We have not been taught that one, love and the language and the rhythm of love is slow. You don't reassure a 4-year-old by talking quickly and saying, everything's going to be okay, right? You calm down. Your nervous system is regulated. It's okay, honey. Everything's going to be fine. When somebody tells me this at 50, I'm on the verge of tears. Yeah. It's okay, love. Everything's going to be fine, right? Just feeling this right now is real. And rest is the only way that the body makes sense of life. So when we're depleted and overtired, we know very well, if we haven't slept well, with menopause especially, like that 3 a.m. wake-up call that kills me for years, we're just zombies and we're not the same person the next day. And we make less great decisions. We have less patience. We're more irritable. We have less energy, so we'll exercise less and won't eat as well as usual. We'll have sugar spikes all over the place. So slowing down is key. Listening to intuition is key, and really feeling what you're feeling. A lot of us carry healthy anger that we never express as women. We live in a society that is really insulting to our nature. And sometimes you just want to say, are you freaking serious? Is this really what you want me to look like, act like? This is the new normal? Because I don't really want this. I don't want to do this to myself. I'd rather spend all my energy, sensuality, creativity, brightness, wisdom on things that actually look like me and sound like me and also feel true to me. Feel true to me. I think that's the midlife inflection point of I have to live in my truth now.
This is the thing, right? We are being called into our truth more than ever because this is where our gifts lie. This is where our power lies, right? But when we're busy and distracted, whether it's our bodies or the things that we do, we've drowned out that voice. And then, the voice starts to speak louder, but we don't trust it, right? Because we've never been taught to listen to it.
That's exactly it. And that's what our culture is doing, is constantly distracting us from tuning in to that inner voice and actually enjoying our solitude. One thing that I've read about and educated myself about is the weaponization of loneliness in our society. So people feel really lonely because we're out of touch with ourselves. We're out of touch with other people. We're more isolated physically. Even diplomacy is done differently because people don't travel as much. As the pandemic proved to us how deeply we are creatures of connection, and without it, we're off. It doesn't feel right. But this being said, in a tribe, it's okay when one goes for a walk in the forest to meditate or to be in tune with nature and think about what to bring next to our community to make it better. Now, we live in a society that's so individualistic that the promise and the hope and the sense of belonging to a community that has your back is kind of eroded. So we feel completely lost. But we have an inherent right as human beings for self-knowledge. Why do I act and react the way I do in my body and in my relationships and in my community? And also, and sometimes I have menopausal blanks. I'm like, am I going to forget what I'm going to say here? See, I'm in menopause right now. Yeah, yeah. And a sense of belonging, and also feeling a sense of safety in our environment. Like, does my neighbor have my back? Right? We don't think like this anymore. So solitude is such an inherent human right where you sit in silence and you don't feel overwhelmed. Why? Because your nervous system has been wired to tell you, hey, everything's okay. That's not how we're wired. We're hired to please, we're hired to perform, we're hired to look a certain way, and we're wired. And did I just say hired? That's a Freudian slip.
Well, we are.
Because we're hired for that too.
There's truth.
Yeah. So wired to distrust ourselves in our own body. So when the nervous system learns this, when it's time to face obstacles, when it's time to transform, how are we supposed to navigate this if we haven't learned it inside our bodies? It's all neurobiological. I don't want to sound dry or boring, but it's the opposite. Because our wounds of attachment, how we were raised as children, how our caregiver, whether it was a grandma, an auntie, a grandfather, whatever, how they related to us, how they validated us, the quality and consistency of care that we got, 0 to 2 years old, pre-verbal years, we're not even speaking yet. It leaves a music, it leaves a neurological music in your brain, right? Like a tone of how safe am I, and how equipped am I to trust the world or distrust the world, depending on the environment that you were brought up in. And that will stay with you in every relationship you'll ever have as an adult. So as long as you're not clear of how it is that you were wired and why you act and react the way you do, then you're living a life without lucidity and awareness and consciousness.
So
if that's not fair.
So we all have this inner voice, and I say this all the time as well too. Is like, you know, when we're searching for that sense of meaning or purpose in our lives, as so many midlife women do, right? We're searching outside of ourselves for the answers because that's what we've always been taught. But the answer like lives inside us, and there's a line from your book that just like really struck me when we talk about like finding purpose, where it says your passion is for you and your purpose is for others, which I just love that line. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And like, because the answer, like the passion is already here. It's just a matter of tuning into it.
I would say that the fire of passion we are born with, because becoming a human and embodying the human, skin, bones, muscles, heart, and everything is a miracle in itself. Like the chances that you coming into the universe, in the whole history of the universe, of becoming a human is miraculous and beyond. But obviously from childhood, some people have gone through so much trauma that feels less like a miracle, right? And we have to be very empathetic and have compassion towards all of this. So, you know Abraham Maslow, the father of modern psychology. So in his pyramid, right, what's most important at the base is obviously like security, right? Having food on your table, a roof over your head. But if there's no emotional safety, it's game over. You're not going higher in the pyramid and you're not evolving into your true potential. So that feeling of emotional safety, by the way, Abraham Maslow studied with the Blackfoot community, an indigenous tribe, and looked at the way that they were living. And apparently he could have presented a whole other concept to his community of psychologists, because he noticed that in that pyramid, they wouldn't have emotional safety as the wording for the base of the pyramid, so you could grow. They would have community. I have chills because yeah, me too. Because emotional safety and community is the same. But what have we done to our sense of community in the modern world? It's eroding, it's fractured, it's fragmented. And when we did this to community, we fragmented and distorted and deconstructed the individual at the same time.
So
So we're still suffering from the impacts of that, especially as women.
For sure. And you talk about a lot in the book about, the before we can be in community, we have to be like with ourselves, though.
Well, I think they go together as we grow. How can you learn to be with yourself if, first of all, the community that raised you, you can't trust and it doesn't validate you? It doesn't work. Your primal brain, which is 200,000 years old or more, it has two functions every second of the day: to get away from danger and to seek comfort. So when you're coming back from work and you're depleted and you have two kids that you have to feed, bathe, do the laundry, help your husband with whatever it is, or right? And there's not real teamwork there. It's so overwhelming to your nervous system that in the long run, you're in survival mode. You're not in thriving mode anymore. And I think that when we get to midlife transitions and menopause and our bodies are telling us, whoa, slow down, I can't do this anymore the way that we used to. It's the miraculous, in disguise, because it's not fun, but it's really telling us, listen, you have a passion and a fire inside of you like every other human being in this world. Now, how you transform this into purpose has to be that you feel somehow that, one, you have something to contribute, and two, that you belong to a community that you are serving. And that sense of service, there's a great Cheyenne proverb that says, in the end, we will conserve what we love what we understand, and understand what we have been taught.
Wow.
Education, education, education on self-knowledge, self-regulation. What does it mean to be in a body where I have a nervous system and where I get to be in tune with who I am, when unfortunately, I'll say it again, society rewards us for self-betrayal. So it's like we're working counter to our true nature in so many ways, and we're also fighting our primal brain of, well, I have to get away from danger and seek comfort, because that glass of wine or that line of coke or that sex addiction, or that TV, or that I don't know, social media addiction, or compulsive shopping, or compulsive plastic surgery, or whatever it is, we're all trying to find our drug of choice to numb our pain and numb the fact that we're in survival mode.
That is so true. And again, I think, this chapter is the course corrector that's saying to you, just like you said, right? Slow the F down, right? Like start going inwards and start figuring out what's happening, because the only way that you can bring your nervous system down is to be aware, first of all, of what's happening inside of you, right? Yeah.
And the other thing is that for some people, this is really important to talk about, Jen, because for some people, slowing down and meditating is completely overwhelming. Okay. Because it's an unknown environment from the inside. So this is why, cognitive behavioral therapy is great. You can talk about your state of life, but your body keeps all the stress. So as a yoga teacher, I practice yoga Nidra and I teach it too. I'm also very interested in body somatic work, because your body holds so much stress that for the people who can't just sit and relax, they feel like they're going to freak out. You first have to do your breathing exercises, like inhaling through the nose and letting everything out. A lot of the women that I know can't even scream it out. Scream out the stress. Bring your shoulders up to your ears and Can you do that 30 times in a row? And then shake off the body. Shake, 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 shake. There's some neuro reset nervous system exercises that are extremely powerful to release from the body before you go into relaxation. And just so people know, yoga practitioners, like the physical practice of yoga that I teach, it used to be a simple exercise tool to detoxify the body first of its stresses, so we could then go into clearing the slate and the debris of the mind. So it's a millennia old or more. And there's a reason why millions of people are practicing it more and more, whether it's, Qigong or Tai Chi, yoga, mindfulness. It's like we're so thirsty for this because we've ignored how our bodies have been speaking to us from the get-go.
So true. And I will say, yoga Nidra and breath work were my savior in my burnout. Like 100%. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Same.
Was it not for those things. And this is the thing that, like, I think, our bodies are talking to us, and our bodies are so smart. Like there's so much wisdom right? That when we start to tune in and listen, whether it's to what's happening with our stress or like, what's my passion, what's my purpose, right? We start getting answers. This was so true for me that I was like, I didn't know that was in there. Like, where did that come from? Meanwhile, it's been with me all along. And the more I'm in it, the more I realize it. It's so true to my core nature, right?
Yeah, I mean, our bodies are telling us so much, so much. Like even your breath. Like if you were right now, if you're listening and you just want to observe your breath, place your dominant hand on your belly just for like 1 minute, and just see when you inhale and exhale how your body reacts. Okay, don't change anything, don't try to control anything, and just see what happens when you inhale and what happens when you exhale. So can you tell me right now, Jen? Like, how does it feel when your body is inhaling? Where do you feel it? Is it in your throat? Is it in your chest? Is it in your belly? Where is it?
Center of my body, my solar plexus.
Okay, so your solar plexus is like right like in the middle of the rib cage, okay? So when we inhale, your belly should be ballooning. But because of holding our tummies in and wearing tight clothes and the stress we hold more in the central region in the chest and in the throat, we're not even breathing appropriately because the belly will balloon naturally every time you take an inhale. So what's happening is that our diaphragm, our breathing muscle, every time that we inhale, it will kind of like expand its wings. And when we exhale, the wings come back in. If that muscle isn't working properly and coming up and down, it's sending kind of signals to your nervous system that something's off. And you kind of have to work around it because you're not breathing properly. And when you're not breathing properly, you're not dealing with stress properly. And when you're not dealing with stress properly, you're not loving properly.
Yeah.
Do you really think that when we love, we're at our best when we're stressed? No way.
Yeah.
So this is affecting everything.
There was another line in the book that literally stopped me in my tracks when I heard it, was that compassion can only come from a regulated nervous system. I was like, oh.
Chills. Chills all over again. So here we go. So when apparently half of the population or more is stuck for too long in what we call the sympathetic nervous system. I explained this very simply in the book. So every human being on this planet has a nervous system, an autonomic nervous system, and one branch is called the sympathetic, which is your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is people pleasing, by the way. And the other branch is your parasympathetic, your rest and digest. And in one day, you'll go from one to the other. It's natural,
right?
Super normal. Okay. It's how we live as human beings. If the car passes in the street, poof, your amygdala is going to start sending you the signal, stop, be careful, or you'll get run over. And there's so many other stressors that we could take as examples. And then your rest and digest is when your body knows, well, okay, I've eaten now, or it's after the car passed by. Now I can come back home and I can come back to what we call homeostasis and just regulate my nervous system. But what's happening because of the living conditions that we're in and the stressors that come at us nonstop, and we're not tuning in with our bodies and doing the right things to take care of ourselves and putting other people's needs first, we're stuck. 50% of the population or more, this is what the data is showing. It's not precise right now, but is stuck in their sympathetic nervous system for too long. Right. So what happens? This creates inflammation. It creates chronic stress. It creates anxiety. And it's very difficult for somebody who's stuck in their sympathetic nervous system to feel empathy or compassion.
And I love this so much because as women, we are so hard on ourselves, right? And we talk about, like, am I doing enough? Am I enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I thin enough? All of the things. And then, when I read this line and it was like, no wonder we're beating ourselves up, is because we are so dysregulated. How can we find compassion for ourselves specifically, right? When we're in this state? So it just like, there were so many lines in this book where I was just like, oh my God, you just like brought all these things together and connected the dots.
Good. That was my purpose.
Well done, right, in book. But yeah, it like that in itself right there, I was like, we need to have more compassion for ourselves. We can't find our purpose or, like what's next or the meaning in our lives when we're busy beating ourselves up.
You know, one of the most potent somatic exercises that one can do in your life is placing a hand over your heart and tapping and just saying, "It's okay, love. It's all going to be okay." Pema Chodron, the great Buddhist monk, does this all the time. And excuse me, it's very simple. Hugging yourself, really actually physically hugging yourself. Remember that we can live a life without sex, boring, but you don't die from it. You don't die from it. But physical touch, you could actually become very dysfunctional without physical touch. And think about all the human beings who do not have human touch in their lives. This is huge. So we have a deep need for connection, and we have a deep need um, to feel that we matter, right? But if we can't allow ourselves to feel what it means to lead authentically from within, then nothing else is possible.
Yeah. And you have to be connected to your true self in order to be able to lead authentically. Yeah.
Yes, and the paradox in there is that there is no true self without feeling that we belong to each other.
Right.
Yeah. The great Ubuntu saying, like, "I am because you are, and you are because I am." It's just, it explains everything in one sentence, two sentences.
One of the things you said in the book as well too is about finding a sense of purpose is more about the journey than it is the destination. Right?
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, I think we've been, once again, kind of like brainwashed to believe that in the modern world, success is like, well, I'm a self-made man, I'm a self-made woman. That's complete BS. Every human being that we meet on our path, whether that was a positive or negative encounter, they teach us lessons about who we are. And so when you have been taught that, well, I've done it all myself, it's never inviting once society asks you to give back. Because why would you give back if nobody was part of your success journey? It doesn't come to you naturally. So if, as parents, or mentors to young kids, if from a young age we show them that we as adults belong to a community, that we through our actions serve others because we know that our happiness is intertwined with theirs, right? I think that we're giving ourselves so many, I would even say exponential chances of our young people growing up as responsible, regulated leaders who want to serve. Because right now, holding public office is not the most clean, inviting, and luxurious image to look at, right? It's quite depressing. And as somebody who's been on the co-political path, I know what kind of sacrifices this life entails. And it's a good thing they don't tell you what's to come, because nobody in their sane mind would say yes. But we still have to do it. We have to be in service to each other, whether that's at a political level, or at a community level, or a school level, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter how big it is. It matters how real it is.
Right. So you're pretty open in your book about, your mental health struggles, your eating disorder, all of that. Like how did you learn to, like, what role did compassion play for you, and how did you learn to like find compassion for yourself as you were moving through this? Because we all have our journeys. I mean, yours happened to be that one, but we all have our thing. How do we breed that sense of compassion for ourselves as we move through these things?
That's a much harder question than you might think, Jen, because as an only child, or you can place yourself as the child that you were in your own family unit. My nervous system learned that I had to save my mother from my father, save my father from himself, and my mom from herself in different ways. They were super loving parents and great human beings, but they come from generations where their trauma wasn't looked at.
Yeah.
So as children, no matter what the parents say, their actions, their dynamics, their energy that they exude, we're energetic beings where everything is energy. We pick up on that as children. So my body learned, well, there's no real space to really express how I feel, because I need to be in tune with that first. That's where my survival, that's where my tribe is, and that's what I have to take care of. So that's the cape that I was wearing. What cape were you wearing, Jennifer? What cape were you wearing if you're listening right now? because your capacity for compassion might not have even been an option for you if you were in survival mode in one way or another.
Amen.
And and it's sad. Like when I think about this, it makes me sad. And a lot of us hold a lot of sadness that we haven't processed. And by the way, like we're looking at each other right now, and if you're listening, just notice that in your eye right now, there's a natural lubrication, right? For you to blink your eyes and all that. And then if the wind would come in, you would start tearing up to protect from a foreign object or a dirt or whatever it is. And finally, you've got your emotional tears, like the tears of joy or sadness. And when chemists analyze the three different types of tears, only the emotional tears contain stress hormones.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we cry, we take care of business, an unfinished emotional business. And so much of us hold sadness and anger. By the way, anger is repressed sadness. You know, I mean, there's healthy anger, like, oh, I don't know, you stumped your toe, right? Totally, totally fine. And, or somebody disappointed you and you can be angry in the moment. Absolutely. But usually there's sadness. And we tend to be so distracted that we don't look at it. And I know world leaders by having talked to them who never cry in their family. And they're leaders that I have really difficulty understanding their choices. But when I heard that, I was like, what? Okay, now I get it. You're a human being who were taught since a child, man up, come on, no crying, move along. Worst thing you can do to a human being. It's the worst thing you can do.
And so I relate so much to what you said because, a lot of my upbringing was the same way. I had to pay attention, to be safe to a lot of things. The biggest part of my own transformation came in a meditation class, actually, where I started to cry, couldn't stop, went back every week for like 5 weeks, sobbed through the entire session. And I only realized after the fact that there was all of this stuff that had to come out. And just like you said, the tears containing the stress hormones, that was the pressure valve right there that released enough for me to then be able to be like, "Whew, okay, I can hear what's going on inside now," right? Because I got rid of some stuff.
I mean, I'm tearing up right now just by listening to you because I know what you mean, because I've been through it too. And there's probably hundreds of women listening right now who have felt the same way, if not more. And for a fact, there are millions of women who are going through this. And Bessel van der Kolk, a great scientist, researcher, published a book called "The Body Keeps the Score." And in my book, like I refer to it in Closer Together, I refer to this because our bodies keep the trauma inside. And if we're not aware of what we processed as children, and this is not to say everybody had the worst childhood ever and they didn't have loving parents. No, but remember, you were raised by human beings, which means
Right.
they're not perfect.
Imperfect human.
So you picked up on whatever you picked up. Big T trauma, small T trauma. Remember this: trauma is not just something bad that happened to you. It is something that you needed that never took place. That is also trauma.
Right.
So when we judge ourselves and we're like, my childhood was amazing, it was perfect, I have nothing to complain about. We just have to be a little bit more discerning that we weren't raised by robots. We were raised by human beings who have their flaws. And of course, it's possible to remember a happy childhood. Good for you. But be discerning of what also were your signals of, well, I didn't feel that safe in this moment, or I felt unhappy or very sad in that other moment. And do I have a little bit of anger that I never could really express because it wouldn't have been welcomed in my circle,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Just be discerning of it.
Yeah. So these themes, like these topics, like understanding our past conditioning, living authentically, having the courage to live authentically, because it is a bit of an act of rebellion, especially for us as women, mindfulness, like all of that kind of stuff. Like when we're searching for the path to what's next or like living our truth, like the answers are all in that. That's why I said this book needs to be on the shelf of every midlife woman, because the answers are in all of these things. And it's just, we are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. Right.
I'm going to try to not cry here, but if any sister is listening right now, my dear sister, it is through the uncertainty that you'll find the answers. Trust, trust, and trust in the uncertainty and in the unknown, because when you leap, the net will appear. For me, I've always seen a circle of fire, and I'm like, I'm gonna burn my skin if I jump on the other side. There will be nothing left of me. It's gonna hurt too much. Let me tell you, and I know you know this, Jen, too. When you jump to the other side, because it's a leap and it is a jump, and it's like, okay, no more. This is it. This is where I'm making my decision. I'm choosing myself. I'm not selfish. I'm doing this because I'm a wise, intuitive, generous woman. But enough is enough. And now this is it. And for a couple of months, you're going to feel like, what the heck did I do? Is this a mistake? This is everything that I'm facing is uncertain. I know nothing. Well, welcome, sister, to the reconstruction of who you are and your most authentic self, because it's a miracle in disguise.
Okay, now
Yeah,
you're making me
I
cry,
know.
and these are like the tears of truth. Whenever I hear truth, it comes out as tears, and that was so beautifully said.
But it's so freaking scary. And I know what it feels like, right? We just have to know that this fear and this uncertainty, it's the motor. It's the flame of, you got this. Just don't quit. And slow down when you can, and cry it out, and scream in your pillow, and go for that walk, and call your other sisters and tell them how you feel, because the other lesson is that there's sisters all along, honey. You were never alone.
We're all doing it together.
Never.
100%.
Never. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for this
Yeah.
conversation. I mean, what a note to end on. Like, I'm feeling all the feels right now. I have 3 questions that I ask every guest at the end of the podcast episode, and I'd love your take on these. So the first one is, midlife is the perfect time to fill in the blank.
Look at yourself in every way in truth. Look in that mirror that is not the other, that is you, and face it and let it hurt.
Whew, okay, you're getting me in all the places.
Because I've been gotten there too. So
Oh my goodness. Okay, if you could stick a sticky note on the mirror of every midlife woman, what would it say?
Oh yeah, that's so hard.
Remember, it's only a little sticky note.
You know what? I'm going to be playful here, and I'm going to take my lips and
I love that.
because become your own lover, baby. Put that lipstick on that paper and let it come back to you as your kiss for every single day, and hold yourself like the best lover would, because if you do that to yourself, that person will come along the way.
Another one.
Yeah.
And the very last question, on your own transformation journey, what is the one book, resource, or idea that you come back to again and again and again?
Yoga Nidra, and exercise. I don't want to sound boring here, but to be honest, like a brisk walk a day in fresh air. Please go outside. Nature is our savior. It holds all the lesson. She knows. The mother knows. She's talking to us constantly. And we have been abusing her in so many different forms for so many centuries. And now we get the feedback of what we've done, right? So it's really about moving your body, listening to your intuition, and practicing solitude. And for me, Yoga Nidra helps me to practice solitude.
I love that.
Yeah.
A woman after my own heart.
Yeah.
Thank you for this uber insightful conversation. It was magic. Yeah, I cannot wait to share this with everybody. This is so good. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you want more, if you want to keep in touch, you can follow me on socials, on my socials. So Sophie Grégoire Trudeau on Instagram and Facebook. And I have a newsletter that I curate myself, that you can register to as well on my socials. And I'm working on a series of workshops that will give you, and I'm going to get the best experts out there. The next one is with Dr. Gabor Maté. to have him accessible, for $39 is like insane. And we're going to have an hour and a half with him. So you can sign up at link in my bio as well. That's going to happen on December 9th.
Amazing. Okay. I'm going to definitely be there at that one. Thank you so much, Sophie. We'll make sure.
Huge hugs and kisses. I love you all.
Make sure all of that gets in the show notes so that everybody can see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Whew, that was a fabulous conversation. So high energy, but so many amazing insights. I got goosebumps quite a few times during that conversation and even a few tears. So, it was a good one. So my key takeaways from this episode, like as I mentioned, there was a few things that she said in the book about compassion. You can't find compassion with a dysregulated nervous system, and she talked a lot about that because the key to finding our passion and our purpose in life is about tuning in and listening to what's happening inside us. But we can't do that when we're stressed out and when our nervous systems are firing off. So all of the stuff that she talked about, the techniques that she talked about for stress management, including yoga nidra, yoga, breath work, all of that stuff, like absolutely, I know that those were key in my own reinvention journey. When I was at the highest stress point of my life, when I was completely mentally and emotionally and physically burnt out, those were the things that actually brought me back down to earth so that I could start to hear what was happening inside me. Because as we talked about in this episode, we are disconnected from our own inner voice, and that inner voice is our guide to what's next. Now, the other thing that I loved, and this is where she really moved me to tears in this episode, was at the ending where she talked about not being afraid to go through the transition, like to do the thing and to take the steps forward, because what's on the other side is a true gift. And yes, it might feel lonely and it might feel painful, and we will be afraid, not be able to trust ourselves as we're going through this transition. But the other side of it is a true gift, and you will be better for it. So her message just about reminding ourselves of how powerful we are, and that this transition that we're experiencing is happening for a reason, and it's about making us better. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I truly did. I would love to know what you took away from it. And if you like what you heard, it would be so great if you shared this episode with a friend or a colleague, a sister, somebody you think that would get something out of it. That would be a huge honor. Or you can go and leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform. So until next time.